I think one of the things that I don't love about growing my own food is that feast or famine with harvests. There's nothing worse than being stuck in the kitchen processing excess harvest or watching your hard work rot in the bottom of the fridge, and then turning around next week not having anything to harvest at all. I'd much rather focus on picking what I need when I need it. And here in subtropical southeast Queensland, we have the advantage with our climate of being able to plant year round, even if summer does have its challenges. To ensure we always have something to harvest, I stagger plantings. Instead of filling my beds with new plants at the start of the season, I aim to fill a single bed each month. Think of it like a shopping basket for the future. I need about 4 to 5 beds for this rotation. If you do have bigger beds, you could always split up into zones. My layouts are loosely based on square foot gardening, and I plant densely to get the most out of my space. I do have separate beds for things that take a little longer, like garlic, and the biennial things like eggplant, chili, and capsicums. These beds are just for my staples and things that grow within 90 days. If you're a dirt lover, you can access all of my monthly plans inside the portal. For July, which is midwinter here for us in subtropical Australia, we'll be planting into our newly prepared wicking bed. This bed is approximately 1 metre by 1.2 metres in size. I managed to get my hands on some amazing compost that I just used to top it off. This is Red Soil Organics Trifecta Mix, which has been the closest to homemade compost I've been able to purchase. I'm not sponsored or affiliated, I've just been influenced from the comments section, so thank you to everyone who recommended them. First up, we're going to be planting our pea seeds. These seeds are the ones that I sell on my website. I've curated the best varieties for the subtropical climate, and I put loads of growing instructions on the packet. They come in resealable foil-lined pouches. I've put my trellis on the southern side to prevent them from shading the rest of the bed as they grow. It's good to check your sun position, as things like root veggies won't grow if they get shaded, even if it's from what you've planted. As I've already got snow peas, sugar snaps, and purple potted peas already growing, I've opted for green feast, which is a potted variety suited to our climate. I sow 2 per hole, double the size depth of the seed size, and around 10 centimetres apart. The trick with large seeds is to water them once and then leave them until they germinate, otherwise you might find they will end up rotting before they sprout. Next to the peas, I'm putting in some broccoli seedlings. These are a hybrid variety called Green Magic that are fast maturing. I started these in my greenhouse about 6 weeks ago. You could replace these for something like cabbage, Swiss chard, tatsoi, or kale. It's getting a bit late for us here for cauliflower, but you could go with a fast growing variety like 60 days. Broccoli do need a lot of space, so I'm only going to fit 3 in this area. Next up, I'm going to do a row of lettuce. This is a red minuet type called Marvel of 4 Seasons. Again, we started these around 6 weeks ago in our greenhouse. They look green now, but being in our greenhouse, they seem to not bronze up. They do have a lovely blush bronze colour when they mature. I'm spacing these quite close. I tend to harvest full heads rather than the outer leaves, so by the time the broccoli really get going, these will mostly be harvested. You could swap these out for a pak choi, Asian greens, rocket, or even the baby spinach. Next up, I'm going to do some beet seeds. So you could plant seedlings here too, but I find them easy to get going with seed. Beetroot are the only root veggies that I'll ever transplant. So I'm planting these quite densely so I can have a run of baby beets and then hopefully get another harvest of a couple of big ones later on. You could swap these out for something like kohlrabi or even radish. The next row is some spinach. This is a Bloomsdale variety, which is a perfect one for harvesting the baby leaves. These were started around 6 weeks ago in my greenhouse, and we could really be harvesting from these now. I'm planting them quite close together as well, and they will probably be finished by the time we get to the beet harvest. You could swap these out for some Asian greens, rocket, or more lettuce if you like. Now for the final row, I'm going to be splitting this up with carrots and radish. So to plant these, I just make a little trench, sprinkle the seeds in top quite densely, and then top it with a seed raising mix. Carrots can be really tricky to get to germinate as they take a while. Sometimes they can take up to a month. And it's opposite to peas. Once they're planted, they need to remain moist. If at any time they dry out, they will fail to sprout. Some people will cover them with shade cloth. I've even seen people lay planks of timber on the soil to keep the moisture in. So I always check the weather forecast. If rain's coming, it's always a good time to plant my carrot seeds. And failing that, I always just have a watering can nearby, so I can just give them a sprinkling of water if I wander by. Now this bed is a little bit bigger than my typical 90 by 90 or 1 by 1 meter bed, so I've got a little bit of space in that back corner that I need to fill. I always love having space fillers on hand for these purposes. These are things like herbs, flowers, spring onions, and lettuce, and they can be planted wherever. There's sort of no limitations with companion planting with these. I've had some spring onions going in the aquaponics, so I've just added these and a little sweet Alice, which is one of my favorite beneficial flowers to grow. So that's our bed planted out for July. To finish it off, I'm just going to give it a good watering in with some seaweed emulsion. And once the seeds germinate and get going, I'll apply our mulch to protect the soil. We should be harvesting our spinach pretty much straight away, and a lettuce will only be a couple of weeks. Depending on how things go, this bed should be in full harvest mode by the end of September. Now to get ready for what's coming up next month and beyond. So a lot of seeds I'll be planting in August will be direct sown in the garden, as it's when we transition to our warm season crops. I'll be planting next month in the garden corn or maybe zucchini, beans, cucumbers, straight into my prepared bed. But for now, I'm going to get another lot of lettuce in. It's always great to have lettuce going. I'm going with a standard cos. This will be the last chance for me to really grow a headed variety, as when it heats up, we go into loose leaf varieties. We do this because lettuce is really prone to bolting early when it's too hot, so loose leaf are always the better way to go. I've got some more spring onions here. I'm going with two different varieties. One is actually a full-size onion that I'll be treating like a spring onion. It's the long Tropea red. They fully form like a little torpedo-shaped red onion, but they do take a long time, so I will be planting these as spring onions. I've also got some of these mystery spring onions. I'm not actually sure what the variety is. They just self-seeded in my garden, and I collected a boatload of seeds, and they've had a really good germination rate, so I'm going to get some of these in. They're either a Welsh Nabucca or a winter Ushuaia. I'm going to plant some more pak choy. These are great for space fillers as they grow super fast. Another great space filler is some rocket. I'm actually trying some perennial varieties, so this wild rocket and just the standard pronto. I would normally do another batch of Swiss chard now, but I do have a bunch already growing here in the greenhouse that I planted a few weeks ago, and I'll just repot these into bigger pots. Now, you're probably thinking spring is a long way off your brain, especially with this cold snap that we've just had, but this is when I start my tomatoes. So these will be planted in September, and I'll upgrade their pots a few times before they get in the ground. And this year I'm going to go with 3 varieties of cherry tomatoes. I'm going to do a honeybee, a black cherry, and a cherry Roma. I'm also going to get in a large variety, which is the black crim. That's our favorite one to eat here. In my 1 bed per month system, I really only have space for the 1 plant, but I'll be growing the rest in pots. I find that diseases that we get here can often linger in the soil for years, so sometimes it is just easier to grow our tomatoes in pots. The trick to starting these in the middle of winter is waiting for a few days of temperatures above 21 degrees Celsius. We've just had a cool snap, which the temperature has obviously been below that, so I'm planting them a little bit later than I hoped. You could invest in a heat pad or plant them inside, but I'm okay with waiting. Now, I normally just plant my flowers direct. I usually just throw seeds around and see what pops up. But I wanted some space fillers in case there's any open spots that arise as things grow. So I've got some calendula, dianthus, and my favorite beneficial, which is the sweet Alice alyssum. I think that's how you say it. I've also got a bunch of different varieties of cosmos going in. That's us sorted for our midwinter planting and preparing for late winter and early spring. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys next time.